It was quiet, save the low hum of the system for the ship. Most of the crew had turned in for the night, and the dim lighting of the corridors made the metallic walls feel cozier than usual. You tiptoed through the hallways, careful not to wake anyone. Not that sneaking into Daisuke's room was unusual, that was kind of your thing. He had invited you to play on his beloved Game Boy earlier, but he got distracted when Swansea barked orders at him to clean the utility room. It wasn't the first time Daisuke was swept away by tasks, leaving you to wait for the chance to hang out with your best friend. Tonight you weren't going to wait. You paused in front of his door and gave a soft knock. There was no response. Pressing your ear to the door, you heard a faint rustling inside. Taking that as your cue, you hit the door's panel and slid inside the room with a hiss. Daisuke was sprawled on the bed, his legs dangling off the side. His pink hibiscus patterned shirt was unbuttoned, revealing the plain ringer tee underneath. His hair looked messier than usual, as though he'd fallen asleep mid-thought in his hands. He clutched his Game Boy, the screen casting a faint green glow across his face. "When?" he whispered, startled, sitting up. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing." You stepped into his room, crossing your arms, smirking. "Weren't we supposed to be playing together?" Daisuke blinked a few times, as though processing your words, then grinned sheepishly. "Oh, right. Sorry, I got caught up." You rolled your eyes and plopped down on the bed beside him, the mattress dipping under your weight. "Caught up in what? Another level?" "Maybe," he admitted, holding his Game Boy. "I was trying to beat this boss before you showed up. It's impossible. I swear the game cheats." You laughed softly, but you nudged his shoulder. "Let me see." Daisuke hesitated for a moment, then he handed you the Game Boy. His fingers brushed against yours. In the process, you noticed how warm his hand was. "Good luck," he said, leaning back against the wall with an amused smile. "You'll need it." As he started for the level, Daisuke shifted to sit closer, his knee brushing against yours. He gave you pointers, though half of them didn't really make sense. "Oh, jump here," he exclaimed. "I know," you replied, your tongue peeking out in slight concentration. His laughter was so soft but genuine. "You're cute when you're frustrated." You froze for half a second, missing the jump and losing a life. Turning to face him, you raised an eyebrow. "What did you say?" Daisuke blinked, suddenly flustered. Nothing. I meant you're cute when you're focused, not frustrated." You smirked. "Right. Sure." His cheeks turned a faint shade of pink and he looked away, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's, late, you're probably just hearing things." "Am I, though?" You teased, settling the Game Boy down. The room fell silent. The tension between you was almost palatable. You shifted slightly, turning to face him fully. "You're acting weird. Did you forget how to talk to me or something?" "No!" he exclaimed, though his voice cracked slightly, clearing as though he looked at his hands. I don't know, you're just close is all." You raised an eyebrow. "I've always been close." "Yeah, but not this close." Your teasing smirk softened into a genuine smile. "You're not used to having someone in your space, huh?" "Not really," he admitted. "But it's not bad. I mean, I like having you here." His words were genuine, quieter than usual, but they carried the sincerity that made your chest feel warm and achy. You nudged him again, this time gentler. "I like being here too." Daisuke glanced at you, his eyes meeting yours. For a moment neither of you spoke. The hum of the ship's systems faded away, and all you could focus on was how close he was, how his hair fell in his face, and how his gaze seemed to linger on your lips, before darting back to your eyes quickly. "Wyan?" he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah? He hesitated, his fingers fidgeting with the hem of his shirt. "I think you're, really cool. You know, you're like the coolest person I've ever met." You couldn't help but laugh softly. That's a pretty bold statement. I mean it, he insisted, your cheeks flushing deeper. You're special, and I don't know how else to say it. Your heart skipped a beat as his words. Aw, he cooed. Before you could respond, a sudden lurch of the ship made you both jolt in place. What was that? You asked, glancing around. Just the systems acting up again, he muttered, though he didn't sound convinced. He shifted closer to you, as though instinctively seeking comfort. The room felt smaller now. The air between the two of you was charged with something you couldn't quite name. Daisuke's gaze flickered to you, and this time neither of you looked away. I really like having you around, he said softly, his voice steady despite the blush that had crept up on his ears. Your chest tightened, and without thinking, you reached out to brush a strand of hair from his face. I like being around you too, you admitted. His breath hitched, and for a moment it felt like the world had stopped moving. He leaned in slightly, his eyes searching yours for any sign of hesitation. Is this okay? He asked, his voice barely audible. You nodded, your heart pounding. Yeah, it's okay, you whispered. As the distance between the two of you closed, the sound of the ship faded, leaving just the two of you there in the moment. Your lips meshed against his softly, hesitantly, as if testing the waters. His hand came up to cup your cheek. His touch was warm and gentle. The kiss deepened slightly, but before it could escalate, you both pulled out, your foreheads resting against each other's. Wow, he breathed out, a small nervous laugh escaping him. That was unexpected. You smiled, your own cheeks burning. Yeah, unexpected, but good. He nodded, his grin widening. Yeah, really good. For the rest of the night, you stayed by his side, the Game Boy long forgotten as you both basked in this newfound warmth between the two of you. The next morning, you woke up next to the sound of someone moving around. It took a moment for the memories to flood back in your brain. Sneaking into Daisuke's room and playing his Game Boy, and then the kiss in your face heated up as you sat up on his bed. The sheets tangled around you. He was standing by his dresser, his back to you. He was tugging on a fresh shirt, his messy hair sticking up in every direction. When he noticed you stirring, he turned around, expression shifting from surprise to a sheepish grin. Morning, he said, his voice softer than usual. Morning, you replied, suddenly feeling very shy. The awkward silence that fell between you two was unsure. You were both unsure of what to say. You fiddled with the edge of the blanket, your mind racing. Had last night changed things between you? He cleared his throat, and he took a hesitant step closer. About last night. Your heart skipped a beat. Yeah? He scratched the back of his neck, avoiding your gaze. I hope I didn't make things weird. I didn't plan for it to happen or anything, but... Dude, you interrupted, your voice firmer than you expected. It didn't make anything weird. His eyes met yours, wide and uncertain. Really? You nodded, a small smile tugging at your lips. Really, if anything, I think it was a bit overdue. His face lit up, his signature grin returning. Overdue, huh? Guess I'm the lucky one. You rolled your eyes, though you couldn't help but laugh. Don't let it go to your head. Too late, he teased, sitting beside you. But seriously, I'm glad. I was worried I'd mess things up between us. You didn't, you assured him, placing a hand on his arm. We're good. Better than good, actually. The two of you fell into a comfortable silence, the tension from earlier melting away. He glanced at you, his expression soft. You know, he said, his voice quieter. I've been thinking a lot about you lately, like, more than usual. You tilted your head, curious. What do you mean? I mean, I've always liked you, he admitted, his cheeks flushing slightly. But I think I've been trying to ignore how much I do. You're just so easy to be around, and you make everything feel less heavy. Your chest tightened. Aw, you cooed out. He held a hand up, stopping you. Wait, let me finish. I'm not good at this kind of stuff. I guess what I'm saying is you're important to me. Like, really important. I don't want to screw anything up. He reached out, taking his hand in yours. You're important to me too, and I don't want to screw this up either. His smile widened, and for a moment it felt like the rest of the world didn't exist. Then, with the sudden burst of energy, he jumped to his feet, pulling you up with him. Okay, no more sappy stuff, he declared. He let out his usual playful tone, returning. Let's do something fun. He laughed, pulling him towards the door. Like what? I don't know, he admitted, grinning, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. You giggled at his tone. The day passed in a blur of stolen glances and lingering touches. It was as if a weight had been lifted off your shoulders, allowing you to fully enjoy his company without overthinking everything. That night you found yourself back in his room. This time there was no sneaking involved. He had invited you over, insisting that he had a surprise for you. When you arrived, he was already sitting on his bed, his Game Boy in hand, and he looked up at you as he entered, his grin widening. Perfect timing, he said, patting the spot next to him. You sat down curious, getting a little bit of deja vu. What's the surprise? Instead of answering, he handed you the Game Boy. You're going to finish the level I was stuck on. You raised an eyebrow. That's the surprise. Hey, don't underestimate the importance of this mission, he replied, feigning seriousness. I need closure, Wan. Closure, I need it. You couldn't help but laugh, taking the Game Boy from him. Fine, but only because I'm such a good friend. Best friend, he corrected, leaning in close. You glanced at him, your face inches from his. Best friend, huh? Yeah, he said, his lips dropping his gaze to yours, and maybe something more. Your breath hitched, the Game Boy forgotten in your hand. Maybe. The words had barely left your mouth before he closed the distance between you, his lips capturing yours. It was gentle and eager. This time there was no hesitation or uncertainty. His hands cupped your face, his thumb brushing against your cheeks, he deepened it. Your hands found a way of tangling in his shoulders, pulling him closer. It was electric, the kind of kiss that made your heart race, and your thoughts blur. Daisuke's lips were warm and soft, moving against your own with a mix of passion and tenderness. When he finally pulled apart, both of you were breathless. He rested his forehead against yours, his eyes shining with a mix of joy and disbelief. Wow, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. That was even better than the first time, he said out of breath. You laughed, your cheeks flushing. I think so too. He grinned, his hand still cradling your face. Does this mean I can call you my partner now, or is that too soon? You gave a pretend think, though your smile gave away. I guess you can. Good, he said, pressing a quick kiss to your forehead, because I've been waiting a long time to say it.